All right, so in this last session, we're going to talk about writing for corporate worship specifically, what it is to do that, what are sort of some guiding principles in that. And Flannery Connor, she was an author. She said that limitation is the gateway to reality, and for any artist, for anyone, boundaries really are, they sort of, in the beginning they feel like shackles, they feel like chains, but really it's the sort of gateway to freedom. We talked about incarnation. So when you talk about basically parameters and boundaries, these are the rules for creating this kind of art form. Um, really every art form has boundaries, and every artist who's ever been good has been someone who has kind of not been way outside the boundaries, but has come in to a form and said, all right, how can I make this form as magnificent and great as it can be? So that's what we want to do with corporate worship. And the two basic rules, I guess you could say, for writing a corporate worship song or boundaries. There's essentially two guiding principles, and they're this: singability, or simplicity, you might say. And so corporate worship songs are simple, and corporate worship songs are about God. So those two things really guide this art form. So we can start with the first one, just simplicity, singability. Um, this is kind of the, it's crucial in this art form that people can sing the song, because that's what the art form is. It's um, writing songs for corporate worship is different than writing other songs, because the ultimate aim is for us to sing together, right? It's not that other art forms are bad, not that other art forms are vain even, but the goal of this one specifically is that we're writing not to listen to someone else sing it, but to actually sing it all together. And so there's really an art to this, to creating a melody that is simple and singable and interesting. It's really not easy to do, and but that is the goal when we write songs for corporate worship. And so generally, a lot of people disagree about this, but to have a song that stays within an octave is really helpful. There are some like "Be Thou My Vision." It's a famous, beautiful hymn, beautiful melody. Um, it's actually really hard to sing if you've ever tried to sing it. The range of it is pretty huge, um, but it's gorgeous, and the church has continued to sing it. So again, it's hard to call these laws, but these are kind of helpful guiding principles for doing this. But yeah, to generally stay within an octave is really helpful, and to be creative within that octave, to do bigger melodic jumps, and to try to be as creative as you can be within those boundaries, is going to be the goal, so you can achieve a moment of corporate worship, so everyone can sing together. So that's going to really guide how you write, and what you're writing in terms of the singability of the song. And then just the other idea, and it's kind of taken for granted, but corporate worship songs are about God. And I know that sounds really simple, but there's a lot to that, right? So songs are like sermons that people remember. So you'll hear a sermon and you'll forget it in a week or 2 weeks. You hear a song and you'll remember it for the rest of your life. And so, in terms of corporate worship, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is that songs are theologically correct, that they're helpful, that they're scriptural, and because songs just stick with you. It's just how God has made the world, and so to put songs in people's mouths to sing is a big deal, right? It's one thing to write a song and for someone to hear it and listen to it, and that's a big deal as well. But to put a song in the mouth of the Church of Christ, for her to sing, because really, what what we sing is what we become, in a sense. What we're shaped by the 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 liturgy, the pounding rhythm, the week after week, gathering for worship and going through the songs and singing together and hearing the praises of God, sung. And so, to say things that are true, obviously, is extremely, extremely important. And so that goes back to one of the principles we talked about in the other video, just truthfulness and saying things that are right, that are true, but that are about God, and that's one thing that can be taken for granted. Worship songs are less about my intentions and more about God's perfections. And so, it's not bad, it's not wrong to sing about how I feel about God, or what's going on in my heart, or what I'm going to do for God, or anything like that. I wouldn't say that those things are wrong, but generally, I think what we ought to be, the canon of the church, what we should be singing, what we should be thinking about, is not ourselves, right? We don't want to walk away from a worship service, right? The question is, who's the hero? Who's the hero of the worship service? So we want to walk away from a song, from a worship service, with Jesus being the hero. And so for our songs to make much of him, for everything that we're doing, to make a big deal of who he is, of what he's done. And so to look through a song and a great question to ask, read through the lyrics of a song and say, what does this teach me about God? And sadly, for a lot of modern worship songs, you read through that, and you don't, if you just read the lyrics, you don't really walk away with, wow, like there's God, there's the glory of God. You kind of walk away with sort of worship experience. That can be a real danger in the experience of worship, is to make a bigger deal of worship itself rather than God, right? You look at the revivals of history, and what would happen is God would move on a people, on a place, and there would be a revival, and they would try to market that and try to kind of take it on the road, and it wasn't real, it wasn't authentic. And so, I think we have to be careful. Like, just if we read the lyrics of our worship songs, are we making a big deal about worship? Or are we making a big deal about God? Those are two different things, and because we don't want to walk away with a sort of an idolatry of worship itself, the experience, the emotion. We don't want to walk away with those things. We want to walk away as, man, just in awe of God. God's the hero. And so to write songs that make a big deal of God, his attributes, who he is, what he's done, it's a huge distinction. And it's really not done a lot today. I think the modern worship thing, it's been, it's really, it's hard to criticize a movement of worship. I mean, like, it's amazing, it's wonderful, and I think what's happened in a sense has been sort of a reformation of sorts, where like the Protestant Reformation was, where the worship all of a sudden was in the language of the people. I think that's happened in the last 10, 20 years with the modern worship movement. We've gotten worship in our language again, right? We kind of moved away from the old hymns and toward this more kind of heartfelt, this raw, visceral kind of praise kind of a thing. And I think it's been great, I do. And I think maybe the pendulum has swung maybe a little too far. And so, and that's the case, that's how it goes with history. Martin Luther said history is like a drunk man on a horse, going from ditch to ditch. And so to bring it back in, I think is helpful, and I think to make our songs a little less focused on the experience of worship and a little more focused on the God who our worship is for, is crucial and important. And that's not to say that every song has to be, this is exactly who God is, and we have to be totally absent from it, right? But we want to balance the mystery and clarity of what we're doing, and would also encourage you, I guess, in terms of writing songs for corporate worship, to look at the liturgy, right? So the church's liturgy for a long time has followed the gospel story: God, sin, Christ, response. And to write songs specifically to fit into those places of the liturgy is really crucial and really important, right? So nowadays we have a lot of songs about redemption, about Christ, about grace, about who He is and what He's done, but not too many songs about confession or brokenness or sin or those kinds of things. Right? You don't hear many of those songs on the radio. So to write more songs that fit into that story and that flow and that liturgy is crucial. And so to find aspects of God, who He is, what He's done, that maybe not many people are writing about, and to say, all right, we're gonna write about those things, is really helpful. So those two aspects, singability, simplicity, and writing about who God is and what He's done, that really shapes what corporate worship is. And so having those walls will help you as a writer. It'll help you think through. All right, this is what it's for. These are the walls, and so to find an idea, a north star within those parameters. To say, all right, we're gonna chase after this. We're gonna go after this, and we're gonna, the transfiguration of the commonplace. We're gonna sing about God's faithfulness in a way that's fresh, that's real, that's fresh to our own lives, our own experience. But it's in a way that makes it as big as it really is, but also tangible for the church, and able for people to sing it and grasp a hold of it. On the first read, on the first glance, there's a connection there, but at the same time, there's a depth to the lyric and to the melody that there's some staying power that keeps people there, and that's a really hard thing to achieve. But you wrestle with it and grapple with it, and you fight to get it. So hopefully this has been helpful in terms of writing songs for corporate worship.